Hey guys, my name is Anthony and in today's video I'm going to be talking about how to be consistent on the F1 games. I've got some notes here that I'm going to be sort of reading out and then elaborating on, basically talking about how to be consistent whether you're on F1 2018, F1 2019 or in a couple of months when F1 2020 comes out. You can be consistent on those as well, and you can actually take these tips and sort of apply them to any racing game, to be honest with you. So in the background right now there's gameplay right now going on of me just messing up, either I'm crashing or I'm spinning out or something along the lines is going out there. So you can basically see that even if you're the most consistent person in the world, which I don't claim to be, you can still mess up at times. And before I get into the video, as of the time of recording this, I've literally just hit 100 subscribers. So I want to thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel and helping me reach 100 subscribers. A lot of the bigger YouTubers who have millions of subscribers, one thing they've all said when they've talked about their growth on YouTube from start to where they are now is that getting those first 100 subscribers is probably one of the most difficult things you can do when it comes to anything online. So I really want to thank you guys so much for helping me reach 100 subscribers, and now let's just push on to reach 200, 500 and then 1,000 subscribers. So getting into the video now, consistency comes in quite a few forms. So for example, you can be consistent throughout a race, you can be consistent in terms of your lap times, and you can also be consistent throughout a championship. You can consistently be getting certain positions in each race throughout a championship. So when it comes to consistency, there are a few different ways that you can be consistent, so I just wanted to put that out there. And one thing when it comes to this video, obviously when it comes to consistency, you're going to have to practice. That's just a given. You can't really be consistent in anything without practice. So because practice is an obvious tip, I don't really want to use that as one of my tips. So that's why I've tried to write down 6 tips or 6 things that you can take into account in order to be consistent. That it is necessarily about practice. Some of them do, obviously you need to practice in order to do them, but they're not focusing on just saying you need to practice, because obviously a lot of people will already know you need to practice to be consistent. So getting into the first one, this one is actually kind of ironic. When it comes to being consistent, there is luck involved. Obviously when it comes to consistency is when you're able to do something multiple different times. However, it does come with a little bit of luck, especially when it comes to racing, because sadly, when it comes to league racing or even just racing offline against AI, there's certain things at play. Your driving ability could be different on any given day. When you're racing online against other people, you don't necessarily know the skill level unless you're in a league that sort of placed you in a tier of roughly people around your skill level, and even then people can have off days, so you never really know what's going to happen in a race. And a race, believe it or not, is all about luck, and especially in a championship as well, you need to be lucky enough essentially not to be taken out of the first corner in some races that could really hinder your championship runnings. A huge example I've seen on this recently on Twitter is from KJ Gamer, who is an F1 league racer, and he's pretty quick. He's one of the quickest guys on Xbox, and recently he hasn't had a lot of luck when it comes to being able to get those sort of positions in races, to get those sort of championships. He's been taken out by people, and these sort of things, they do happen, and sometimes they're going to happen more often than not. If you guys watch TRL Limitless, you'll know that at the beginning of F1 2019 he wasn't as consistent. He was making a bunch of mistakes that he usually wouldn't make, and it caused him to lose out on positions that he would have otherwise gained. So it is all about luck, to be honest with you. It's not obvious why I say it's all about luck. What I meant to say is luck is involved when it comes to being consistent on a game like F1. So that's what I mean when I say that luck is involved. Or the second tip, consistency is about mindset, not skill. Now obviously skill comes with practice, but you could be the most skillful driver on the grid, but if your mindset is not about the race, if you're not 100% focused about the race and about the championship, if you're in league racing, then you're not going to be able to perform at your best, basically. So a huge example of this is actually personal to me. Recently, I've been quite stressed, with certain things that's going on outside of the internet, and sometimes I've been quite stressed before a race, and it really did show in some of the in some of the league races that I've done recently. In fact, some of the clips that you've seen at the beginning of this video were from some of my league races where I was stressed going into the race. However, if you've seen my previous video, well actually it was 2 videos ago now, I'll leave a link at the top right hand side of the screen to my Austrian Grand Prix at LCR European Championship. I got a podium in that race, and that was the first race in weeks that I didn't go into it stressed. So, you know, it really does show that when it comes to being consistent on a game like F1, you need to have the mindset in order to be consistent. You need to focus when it comes to the race, and you need to focus when it comes to the championship. And the reason why I keep differentiating those two is because being consistent in a race is different from being consistent in a championship. Obviously, a championship consists of multiple races. So getting into the third one, you want to have a goal in mind and work towards it. So say for example, your goal in terms of consistency is you want to be able to run a 100% race against friends or against AI without having to use flashbacks. Then you work towards that. You start building up, you start practicing. Obviously, I know I said that practice is a given, but you know, you do have to put in the work in order to be consistent. So you're going to have to practice in order to reach that goal, and you're going to have to work towards reaching that goal. You're going to have to start doing more 100% races and learning exactly what sort of skill sets you need, because having the skill sets that you have in order to do a 5-lap race or a 25% race is a lot different than the skill sets you would need to do a 100% race. Obviously, a 100% race being longer than a 25% race. So getting into the fourth tip, honestly, join a racing league and compete with people who are either on the same skill level as you or even better than you. If you go back and watch my video, I'll actually leave a link in the top right hand side of the screen to one of my videos that I did before I started doing league racing, where I was just racing online or I was just racing against the AI. You can see that since I started league racing in January, my skill, my pace, my overall pace and my overall skill has improved drastically. And that's mainly because I am racing people who are better than me and I'm learning things from them. I'm racing people who are even around the same skill level with me and potentially even slower than me. And you know, everyone does something different that could help you build the skill sets you need to be a very consistent driver. So even if someone's slower than you, they might be doing something better than you. It's just overall they're not doing things that you're doing, and that's why they're slower than you. So, you know, there's lots of things that you can learn. You want to drive around other players. Obviously, some people only like driving against the AI, and that's fine. But the AI is limited to what they can do because obviously they're programmed to race in a certain way. Whereas you never know what's going to happen with other people. So you're able to learn different driving styles from different people. For example, in the F1 esports, you've got people like Frederick Rasmussen, who drives a different way to the current champion David Tinitza. They're at the same skill level, but they drive completely differently. So, you know, you want to take stuff from that you're learning from other people in league racing, and that will help you become consistent, but it does take time. So getting into the fifth tip now, basically you want to work on your 1-lap pace and then work on matching that 1-lap pace as best as possible. Obviously, when it comes to race pace, a race is just 1 lap done multiple times, obviously. So, you know, like for example in Austria, you've got 36 laps. That's basically 1 lap done 36 times. So basically you want to work on your 1-lap pace, become as quick as you possibly can over a single lap, and then once you feel as if you're at a level where you don't think you can really get much faster at the time being, then you want to work on just matching that pace. That's what I actually did with Austria over time without even realizing it. At first, I just started playing time trials on Austria because, you know, I really enjoyed Austria. It was a nice short track. It was something to help me get used to using no assists. And I would just practice on Austria. Just practice and practice and practice. And eventually, I got to a point where I felt, you know, this is actually pretty quick. Then I started working on and trying to match that as best as I can. And I don't know if you guys just heard that, but a bus or something just passed the house. So if you did hear that, I apologize for that. But yeah, I just tried to match that pace as best as I can, and the result was getting my first podium. So work on 1-lap pace and then work on matching that 1-lap pace as best as you can, and one tip I have for you that I learned recently is when you're practicing, try not to use time trial as much, because obviously it's easy to hop in a time trial and be by yourself. But when it comes to time trials, a lot of the things are sort of skewed in your favor, essentially. What I mean by that is, you know, the tire wear. There's no tire wear in there, and obviously you're always going to be using hot lap, essentially. You're always going to be using the maximum ERS modes and stuff like that. So, and you're always going to have DRS, whereas in an actual race, you're not always going to have DRS on a car in front. Your tire wear is a thing, and you know, as time goes on, you're going to have to drive slightly differently because the tires are starting to go, and obviously you have other cars that you need to sort of maneuver around as well. So the best way to practice is, obviously you can practice in time trials when you're learning the track and stuff like that. The best way to practice is actually to practice in GP mode, just so that you can get used to being around other cars, racing wheel to wheel with other cars and stuff like that. So that's my tip there when it comes to, you know, where you should be practicing. Online, ideally, but also GP mode if you can't get online. And the last tip of this video is to record your best laps in races and then study them. See what you're doing wrong, see what you feel you're doing wrong on a lap, and then compare those laps to other laps from other people who are quicker than you or who are better than you. And you know, you'll be able to spot things that they're doing that you're not necessarily doing, and that's the best way for you to sort of start learning what you should be doing versus what you shouldn't be doing. Like with F1 2019, the game, it works differently from F1 2018, if I remember correctly, because I only played F1 2018 for like a couple of weeks to a month, and F1 2020 is said to be different in how, you know, shifting up and shifting down the gears work as well. On F1 2019, you can really just spam, especially when you're downshifting, you can really spam the downshift, so that means you can brake later. Whereas on F1 2020, I think they said that they're actually going to be changing that, so there is a little bit of a delay, which means you're going to have to shift down slower, which means you might not be able to brake as late as you are in F1 2019. So, you know, you really want to sort of see what other people are doing and see what other people are doing better, and you know, sort of just study that compared to your own stuff. So that's all I have in terms of the notes for this video. That's basically how to be consistent. Obviously there is an element to luck involved when it comes to being consistent on a game like F1, but you know, with the obvious practice and using some of these tips that I've given you in this video, hopefully it can help you improve your consistency. If you want to learn how to drive without assist and you want to learn how to be consistent with that, then I will leave a playlist on the top right hand side of the screen that will take you to all of the videos I've made about F1 tips. So you can just watch through those. I've got one where I talk about how to drive without assists, and one where I specifically talk about how to drive without the racing line. And then at the time of recording this, I'm recording this on Friday the 29th of May, there's a video coming out later today where I will be specifically talking about how to brake using without using ABS and stuff like that. So if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and once again, thank you so much for 100 subscribers, and I'll see you guys in the next video.